I am honored to introduce today's speaker, Mrs. Tara Mizrachi. Tara has been sharing the wisdom and holiness of Tehillim for more than 40 years, beginning as a volunteer for an orphanage in Haifa many years ago. Over the years, she has been giving classes to the great Jewish soldiers of Fort Beginning, for children at Torah Academy, and for seminary students at Machon Alta in Sfat. Her articles have appeared in Kol Yaakov magazine, Yated, and she has been featured on KAUS, KATE radio, and Kal Tov, KAAL TV. In 2007, after her mom passed away, and a close call in which she came close to dying, she dedicated her efforts to sharing the positive experience of Tehillim. She began writing about Tehillim in honor of her mom, Tzipora Bas Yidka, and put these writings into a book called Software for the Soul, Psalms for Everyone. Tara has been kind enough to kindly donate her book to our raffle. Rabbi Moshe Feller, director of the Upper Midwest Merkos, wrote the foreword for the book, in which he stated, her style of highlighting what Tehillim has to say about every aspect of life and all of life's situations is refreshing and insightful. So I'm really excited to introduce Mrs. Tara Mizrachi. Thank you so much for being here. It is an absolute honor.
It's great to be here, Jody. Thank you so much for a beautiful introduction, and I love Ruth's talk as well. It's just so inspiring, and it's just an honor to be here. I guess I'd like to talk about the subject of healing the world, one Tehillim at a time, and we're really going to focus mostly on Tehillim 34. But first, just there's a miraculous aspect to Tehillim that I think you all are aware of, just based on the 2,000-year history of people who for the Tehillim, which can very often are having the only thing that we really have from our ancestors who lived.
I'm just going to introduce you. Sorry, I'm just going to interrupt you quickly. There's a little bit of an echo, and it's also very soft. Are you able to raise your volume, possibly?
Sure. Let's see. I have this other mic here. It's just a little bit better. Maybe I can just speak a little louder. Is that better?
That's definitely. Yeah, that's definitely better. Yeah.
I could put a mic in too, if that helps. Is this better? Is this okay?
That's definitely better. Yeah. Thank you.
Great. Basically, as we all know from our relatives that we have, and very often we only have a Tehillim or Siddur as something to remember people by from past generations, because that's something that they held close by in their heart at all times. And there's something special about Tehillim, something maybe miraculous about it. And I would just like to talk about that first, and then delve into Tehillim 34. Basically, as we know, some ascetic said, of course, if we knew the power of the verses of Tehillim, the chapters, they would break through, we would recite them constantly, so that the chapters break through all the barriers from level to level, unimpeded, and intercede upon their exact with kindness and mercy for the Master of the universe. And that also, there's also another part of Tehillim that it kind of occurred to me as well, is that Lamatseach, when we say Lamatseach, before saying Tehillim, it's to the conductor. We have to also keep in mind that Hashem is the conductor, he's the orchestra, he's all the instruments, he's the composer, everything. And when we're reading Tehillim, you can think of even David HaMelech was acknowledging that people think, oh, it sounds like we're talking to David, but I think we're talking about Hashem being the conductor when we read in the Tehillim many times to the conductor, because really our lives are conducted by Hashem. A lot of times we find ourselves in a situation where, gee, how did I get to this place? How did I get to this time? What's going on? And we say, well, Hashem is the conductor. And in the case of so many of the wonderful mitzvahs, I know that Orly a lot of times she'll say that Hashem is the CEO. And so that's kind of a similar thought to that. And as well, of course, there was a time when I myself had an operation and I wasn't feeling very well. And I went through a lot of the prayers that I know and the Psalms that I know. And when I came across Tehillim for 136, 118, and 23, Hodu, Kelly Ata, and Gamki Ella, I felt the feelings that I was having where I wasn't feeling very well. I felt it just like zapped away like that. And later on, I read that Rabbi Nachman of Breslau, he described Psalms, which many times, besides Lamaseach, the conductor sometimes is referred to Tehillim as Zamer, Mizmor. Can you hear me okay?
Can we try the mic?
Sure.
I can hear, but no, it's fine. We have been hearing you, but there is a little bit of an echo and sometimes it gets soft. So let's see.
Can you hear this one now? Is this better?
Much better. Yeah.
It's better? Okay, great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Well, okay. So I'm not sure what part we missed, but basically Lamnatseach, a lot of time the Tehillim start with the word Lamnatseach, to the conductor, a psalm by David. And so very often, if you think about it, Hashem is the conductor, Hashem is the composer, Hashem is all of the instruments, Hashem is everything. And that's something to, when we think about it with the Tehillim, it helps us in our life because we realize that as we're going through our life, that there's nothing by accident. We're not where we are and when we are by an accident. It's Hashem has a plan for us. And there's another preface to a lot of the Tehillim. It goes Mizmor la David. And Rabbi Nachman of Breslau brings down that Mizmor la David shares the same root with Zamer, which means to clip off or prune, much like one clips off or prunes a tree or the thorns from a rose, the briars or thorns. And he says that in much the same way, the Tehillim clip off the spiritual negative forces. And that's also kind of a miraculous part about the Tehillim. And I'm sure there's much more that we don't understand in our current state. Of course, our brain is limited. We're limited in many ways. But there's something very, very special. For 3,000 years, people from everywhere have been saying Tehillim. And Tehillim have really, really done this very, very special things, as we know from our experiences. And the other thing I was relating earlier was that that Tzemach Tzedek, I know you've probably heard this many times. If you knew the power of the verses of Tehillim, we recite them constantly. Know that the chapters and the verses of Tehillim break through all barriers from level to level, unimpeded, and intercede before the Master of the universe and secure their effect with kindness and mercy. And if we just think about that, that's just unbelievable. So this is a miraculous thing, probably of great speakers that are going to go into a lot of the miraculous parts of Tehillim. But I think we're going to bring it down some more down to earth and talk about Tehillim 34 and how, as we know with David, how he experienced just about everything there is to experience in life. So this is something that he really experienced, and we can give us some practical advice on how to help the world, how to help heal the world. And so as we know, Tehillim, how does it start out? It says, this is a very, very big, very, very exciting thing. It says here in my Tehillim book over here, it says, Le David. And then it says, Sanutau et Talmo Lifnei Avimelech. What happens? David is running away. He's running away from King Saul because King Saul was felt threatened by him, because this was something meant to be, that he would lose some of his closeness with Hashem. And then, of course, David would get it. And of course, David was very popular with people after slewing Goliath. So what happens? He runs away. Where does David run to? Like, let me ask you, where would you run away to? He's running here, he's running there. He doesn't seem to be able to find safety. So he runs where? He runs to the city of Gath in Philistine. Now, that one would say, well, why? He just killed Goliath. Why is he going to go to the city in the place that he killed the person, Goliath in, his hometown? Well, I mean, we think about people in history that survived things. For example, there were people that hid out in Berlin during World War II, and they were able to survive. I was reading about recently about the prime minister. It escapes me for one right now for a second, but he was hiding out in Tel Aviv, and he was hiding out from the British in Tel Aviv. So there's places where sometimes people hide in plain sight. So that's what David did. He ran to the city of God. And what happens? Well, of course, this does not work out too well. Guess who is the bodyguards of the king there? The bodyguards of the king of the city in Philistine, the bodyguards are Goliath's brother. Oh my goodness, this is not a good situation for David. He's sitting there, and guess what he took with him when he came to hide? He took the sword of Goliath that he just slew Goliath. He grabbed his sword, so he has this one possession with him. This is probably pretty big sword, I would imagine, because Goliath was a pretty big guy. He has this big sword. He's sitting there, and his two brothers of Goliath said, "That guy, he's killed my brother." And they go over to the king and say, you gotta go kill this guy. This is not okay. So the king says, okay, yeah, you have a good point there. And he goes and he sees David. And what happens? Well, according to Rashi, David started drooling all over his beard. This is an unbelievable thing. Here he is. This is great war hero, a military hero. He's a great popular person. I mean, can you imagine? Everyone was so frightened of Goliath and so frightened of the Philistines. And David just comes up, he steps up to the front, and he's able to, with his slingshot, help protect everybody. But then what happens? Oh my goodness. Like this is something. He's drooling from the spit going onto his beard, and then he's babbling, and then he's raging. And then what happens next? He puts graffiti on the gate of the city of Gath. And what does the graffiti say? It says, "King Achash owes me 100 coins. And not only that, his wife owes me 50 coins. Now, can you imagine this? This is unbelievable. So the king goes over and he goes over to check this out. He's going to, of course, order him immediately to be killed. Then what happens? The king's mother and his daughter also start raging and acting completely bizarre, like they had a mental illness of some sort. And so the king is so exasperated and, of course, very concerned about his mother and daughter and concerned what is going on. And he says, "Don't I have enough mad people in my kingdom? Go away." And he sends David away. Of course, I'm paraphrasing. I think the words exactly were slightly different, but they're to that jest. And so this is what situation we find ourselves in. So what is this teaching us? Well, we have some commentators on this, of course. That's Hadrash says that David was really mentally ill at this time, because you really can't fake it. I mean, the king, these people are very smart. They've seen people that had problems before, and they see if somebody's acting. I mean, you have to be an unbelievable professional actor to pull this off. Perhaps there's subtle things that one can't just pretend to be like that. And he really was afflicted, according to Yavetz Hadrash. Another thing that Yavetz Hadrash also brings down was that it was a miracle that the king didn't kill him. It was just because he was acting as if he was mentally ill. The king could have easily said, "All right, kill him." I mean, he just killed Goliath. That would make perfect sense. For a king, they may not have so much sympathy for a person who's not well, and maybe they would order him killed anyway. Why not? Another person, Zaish Rananan, says that it was a big miracle that the mother and daughter at that moment, also at that very moment, started acting deranged. Why? That was also a miracle. And then Al-Shich said that there's another miracle, which I think is amazing, that if he really was afflicted at that time, as as the other commentators assert, all of a sudden he became well as soon as he left. So the mental illness came upon him, the mental illness was taken away. These are all miracles. And then what does David HaMelech do? He writes a Tehillim, and the Tehillim is to thank Hashem. But if you think about it, he could have said, hey, I did this great thing. I'm so smart. A lot of times we see great military victories. A lot of times we look at our family and we look at our friends and we say, we congratulate ourselves. We say, you know something? I'm doing this pretty good. I was pretty smart to plan this all out and how it happened so perfectly. But now we remember Hashem is the conductor. Lamatseach Mizmor. He's really the conductor. And this is something that, of course, David realized so profoundly, that it wasn't that I was so smart. It's not that I'm Academy Award winning actor. It's that Hashem gave me this. Hashem protected me. And this is all due to Hashem. Everything is due to Hashem. And David teaches us this by his experience, because he went through everything, and he gives credit and all of the praise to Hashem. So anyway, so we can go on to some of the other passages. That would be, we did Pasuk Aleph through Pasuk Bet, verse 2. David thanks Hashem, of course, like we were saying, Avarcha et Hashem b'chal et hamid tehilato b'pi. I will bless Hashem always. Always shall his praise be in my mouth. And here we're starting with things having to do with mouth, because we're going to bring down in the coming verses a lot of things having to do with the mouth, which is very interesting. But Hashem wants us to thank him, and we know this every day for the miracles that have happened, and the miracles we didn't even know happened. Even when we drive 2 blocks someplace, we don't know the accident that didn't happen. But David brings this down, that these are very, very inspiring things to really, really be aware of, to be thankful for every day. And how do we help heal the world? Being thankful, being grateful for the people around us that Hashem brought into our lives, and for Hashem, for all of the miracles. When we even see the sunrise, what is the difference between a miracle and an everyday event? A miracle is something that happens that we say this, we don't expect it. So we say, oh my goodness, this is a miracle. But the reality is, every time the sun rises, it's a miracle. Every time we wake up, it's a miracle. Every breath we take, it's a miracle. And we know, of course, the Asher, it's our prayer, and it's acknowledged in Judaism. Their sages brought this down to us. We're so lucky that we have all of these sages that brought this wisdom down to us, that every moment is a miracle. So, of course, David HaMelech is bringing that down here. He's saying that I shall bless Hashem at all times. Always shall his praise be in my mouth. And then Pasuk Daled, verse 4, says, Kadlul Hashem iti romama shemo yachtav. Declare the greatness of Hashem. Let us exalt his name together. So this, I would like to share the aspect of that, the together part. Right now, we have a lot of these devices here. Where's my device? Here it is, my cell phone. Of course, I keep this with me at all times. But there is some times where maybe I should put it down. I know I'm saying something that's shocking to most people, but the idea of putting this down would be something that we would be experiencing, an experience that people have been experiencing for thousands of years. And what did they do without these devices? I don't know, but we can just barely imagine. What did they do? They put them down, and they gathered together with their family, their friends, their strangers even, and said, let's sing praises to Hashem. Let's dance. And this is something that if we try this again, I know we've forgotten it. If we try it again, all of a sudden we'll say, wow, this is amazing. This is such a wonderful, wonderful experience. Just having fellowship with each other, having together as we bring strength, the Shekhinah of Hashem dwells with people that are praising him together. And the idea of also, of course, here we're Yesod as far as the Kabbalah, the idea of actualizing all of these thoughts and feelings into expressing them into real time. So the idea of singing Tehillim, and if we don't know the words, we can write them, even English letters, for our friends. And there's a lot of songs that are based on Tehillim that are popular, songs that from a long time ago, but they're available and we can sing them together. My mom was a, blessed memory. She was somebody who had a lot of just warmth and a lot of love and a lot of honesty. And for that reason, people would seek her counsel and ask her advice. Even she was in the hospital towards the end of her days, and the nurses would take their break in her room and ask her advice. And very often she would say, dance. That was that was her answer to many questions. It's like, I'm really sad, dance. Or if somebody says, I'm really happy, dance. And sometimes just dancing, we don't have to be experts at dancing. We could be dancing all alone while we're cleaning, or we could be dancing with our friends. We could just link arms and dance. And that whole idea, like I said, it's tying in with Yesod, but it's also tying in with the expression that David and Melech makes, declare the greatness of Hashem. Let us exalt his name together. We could dance together. We could sing together. And it really sometimes is a great way of expressing our love, and also being together, and also getting strengthened, because sometimes we're feeling stressed, and it helps so much. And of course, I won't take too long. Pasuk tek ta'amu ir'u ki tov Hashem. This is unbelievable. This pasuk says, taste and see that Hashem is good. What does this mean? Taste and see Hashem is good. So now, one thought, of course, it's it's Seforno. This is not with me. Seforno is saying, taste with your senses. When we think about what is this to taste, it's the same thing we use to speak. When Chas v'Shalom, somebody says something that's not nice, or somebody says something that's wonderful, but we're using the word to speak. But now we're saying taste and see Hashem is good. When we're tasting, we're taking it in. We're not expressing out. We're taking in through our senses. And we're also actually, when we're tasting things, they're actually going into our body. We're really becoming part of every cell of our body ultimately. So when we're experiencing Hashem is good, there's a taking in, and also to see is also taking in the light waves. We're taking in and we're experiencing, really experiencing Hashem's goodness. And the other aspect of Hashem's goodness is that everything's ultimately for the good. That sometimes things happen that maybe we don't feel are so good at that moment, but that Hashem is good. Taste and see Hashem is good. That is the reality of life. That is the real, true reality. Even though things may not seem so good right now, ultimate good, because Hashem is good. Pasuk Yud Gimel. Oh, we know this one. This is a great one. Of course. Are you ready for it, guys? Mi ha'ish es chafetz chaim, right? Ohev yamin lirot tov. Who is the man who desires life, loves days to see good? Who doesn't love this verse? It's so amazing. And of course, you've probably thought of it, but the idea that when we have in our everyday moments, when we love our days, what does that mean? What does that mean to love a day? To give all that we have to that day. And when we think about our days, some days are passing us by and some days are just flying by. As I get older, I'm realizing that. But the reality is that when we're close to something really, it's a catastrophe, it really stays in our memory. And in my case, I had a situation where I flew in those medevac helicopters, and it was an amazing experience, because for that moment, those minutes I was in that helicopter, there was a reality that, okay, the time on Earth is most likely limited to an hour, 2 hours, and it makes a person really brings home, what if this was our last? There's a country music song about it, but what if this was our last moment on Earth, our last hour? How precious that hour would be. Would we spend that hour? What would we do? Would we spend the hour, Chas v'Shalom, in any way misunderstanding what someone else said to us? Or would we spend the whole hour saying, I love you, thank you, I forgive you, I'm there for you, hug, the nonverbal things. These are the things that make life the most precious, because the time is the most precious, precious gift we have. This was told to me by somebody who had a terminal cancer and was walking barefoot on the beach and said, let's all go barefoot on the beach. Time is the most precious, precious thing we can give to each other. And just this idea of mi'aishes chafetz chaim, ohev yamim lirot tov, to see good when we really love our days. I know today is a day just like any other day, but perhaps we could stop just for a moment and think how precious, if this was the last hour, what would we do? And just to go on in Yud Daled,
Tara, we have one more minute.
The tongue now in the mouth, right? He's David Melech is saying, of course, it's Surah, and he's saying, guard your tongue from evil and your lips from speaking deceit. So again, it's very interesting because we were talking about taste and see Hashem is good, and now we're saying guard your tongue. Well, what does it mean to guard your tongue? Well, I'm thinking if I put these sentries, these soldiers in front of my mouth, it's not going to really do much good. The sound waves are still going to go around what I have to say. So what do I do? What does it mean to guard your tongue? And guarding your tongue really has to do with time. It has to do with the presence of mind. It's definitely not a real guard. So a lot of times we think if we just wait, if we could just wait and we could say this brilliant thing we were going to say, we can say it tomorrow. We can say it anytime. And if we're worried we're going to forget about it, we can write it down, put it in our pocket, because anything that we're thinking is so pressing, we have to say it this second, it probably can wait. It's usually the things that are really, really, really profound that are things that we really remember tomorrow. But if we're not going to remember, we can write it down and we can say it tomorrow without the emotion. It'll come out better. It'll just be much better, and you're not going to lose it. It's an interesting thing with speech. When it comes out, it's sort of like a paper, it rips. You can't really put it back. So when it comes out, it's out. It's like in the universe, and it can go on forever, like the sound waves. But if we don't say it, we can just hold on. It's like this really cool thing. Like we have this great word we're going to say, like a precious gem. It's so great. We can hold on to it a little bit, right? And that might be a good thing. And just
Tara,
to wait.
we're going to need
Let
to
me take out the
close
mic
up
so I
in a
can
minute.
hear you.
We're going to need to close up with your talk. There's so many gems in here. Do you have a last something that you'd like to share just to close everything up?
Yes, I do. Here it is. Yes, I absolutely do. Basically, the whole
that the Tehillim are, of course, are miraculous, and also David Melech brings down the concepts of humility, of gratitude, loving each moment, that each moment is precious, and of course, serving Hashem and avoiding Lashon Hara and tasting and seeing Hashem is good, and just giving of ourselves to others, but also realizing, as Orly has shared, there's sometimes we have to stop and give to ourselves to get ourselves strengthened so we can help some more. And also the netzach of Yesod for the Kabbalah is everlasting connection. So we can bring that everlasting connection together as we help each other every day.